So I want to tell a developmental story about epistemology and the development of our cognitive apparatus, drawing on what philosophers have said, what developmental psychologists have said, and so forth. So I want to start with our first point of contact with reality. As infants, we're born. If we're normal and healthy, we have 5 immediate sources of information about the world, and those are our sense organs. And they are tuned to various sorts of energy patterns in reality. So first level is sense perception. Our eyes are sensitive to structures of light information. Our ears are sensitive to sound structures. Our noses and taste buds are sensitive to chemical compositions in the world. And our sense of touch is sensitive to heat and pressures and so forth. So we have 5 modalities that give us immediately upon birth start impinging upon us to give us information about the world around us. Now, fairly quickly and automatically, as far as I know from my readings, sense perception works automatically, and our brains work to integrate our sensory information into an awareness of entities and actions and properties in the world, so that when items, for example, cross our visual field, it's not simply disconnected color patches moving around in a random fashion, but rather those color sensations are integrated into an awareness of units. So, for example, you looking at me right now, I have a black shirt on and some gray pants, and the blackboard here is white, and I might be moving around, but nonetheless you see me as an integrated unit, as an entity. So I retain a certain identity perceptually as I move in front of the blackboard here. There are, of course, learned components here, and there are attention issues and focus issues that learn and can become more sophisticated. If we think, for example, of one of my favorite examples is going for a walk in the woods in the summer day. Everything is green and there are trees and you hear the birds. And once in a while, I'll hear a bird that's, according to my ears, is very close to me. And so I'll turn and I will scan and I'll try to pick out the bird. And I know that the bird is only like 6 feet away from me, according to what my ears are saying, but I can't quite see it yet, even though no doubt the light is reflecting off the bird from the sun and into my eyes. So at a certain point, though, the bird will almost pop in a gestalt way into my vision. I will then perceive the bird as an entity distinct from the branches and leaves that may be partially obscuring it, or the ones that are background to it, as well as whatever patches of sky that I can see behind. So that's an example of being aware of particular entities. For example, the bird, and being able to discriminate the bird and distinguish it from the leaves, the sky, the twigs and branches and so forth that it happens to be sitting on. This is, again, largely an automatic process, although we can learn how to do it better. For example, I've never done this, but as an adult, many people will say take a wine tasting course. Now, our palates are already developed. We know how to discriminate certain kinds of tastes. But one can consciously attend to training one's palate and learn to pick out all various kinds of chemical properties and their tastes in wines, for example, and become very good at that sort of thing. Another example of a more or less automatic integration of sensory data into units would be an auditory example. You've perhaps had the same experience that I have had. You get into your car, you turn the car on. As soon as it's on, you turn the radio on. Most of the time, the radio comes on and it's in the middle of a song. And there will be a moment where all of the sounds are impinging upon your ear, but you don't quite recognize the melody yet. So far, it's just a disconnected series of sounds. But at a certain point, there's a gestalt, right, phenomenon that occurs again, and you pick out the melody, right? A certain number of sounds arrayed across time are integrated into a unit, and you hear it, right, as a unit, as a part of a melodic structure. And of course, there might be memory issues that are involved there as well. If it's a song that you kind of sort of recognize, your memory might be aiding. But even if it's not a song that you've ever heard before, nonetheless, your physiological sensory perceptual apparatus is automatically integrating it into a unit for you. Now, this is something that we share with most other animal species. Most animal species have some form of getting sensory information from the environment. There's a wide range of modalities that are possible here. And we know that some animals are better and more acute along some sensory modalities than we are. We're better than some animals and others, of course. Dogs famously, for example, have a much richer sense of smell than we do. One datum that I remember, I don't verify, I know for the accuracy of this, but my understanding is that the adult human being has something like 5 million sense cells in the olfactory zone of our nose, and the average dog has something on the order of 120 million. Bats are famous for their acute auditory range, hawks having 80-20 vision, whereas the normal human has 20-20 vision, and so forth. All right, so that's sense perception. It's a very rich and very powerful source of information about reality, and it's very important to us as human beings as a foundational part of our coming to know the world.